Hey everybody, just a quick disclaimer, this review does have spoilers, including deaths, motivations, and so on. If you haven't seen the movie yet and want to avoid spoilers, you might just want to come back to this one. So I've been super excited waiting for this movie to come out for a while now. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of my favorite slasher franchises and just horror franchises in general. So grab a snack, sit back, and let's get right into it. So we open up with a flashback of the original movie giving us a quick breakdown of what happened, and it pans out and it turns out this is just a documentary that we're watching on a gas station TV as we meet one of our four main protagonists, Lila. During a dialogue between Lila and the gas station clerk, we learn that Sally from the original film has become a sheriff and is hunted for Leatherface for the past 50 years, only to come up short because she doesn't know exactly who she was looking for due to the face mask. While they're checking out at the gas station, they also pick up a little chainsaw wine bottle opener because in America we like to profit off of anything and everything, including tragedy and murder. We meet the four protagonists who are young city folk entrepreneurs who are on their way to help sell property in an old abandoned town in Texas. While they're filling up their car, a loud truck pulls up blaring metal music, and we meet the gun-carrying good old southern boy, Richter. Melody, the sister of Lila, who we met in the gas station, makes a comment about his gun and him having a small manhood. They have a quick exchange talking about seeing bigger guns before. All of this is just to build up tension and give subtle hints that maybe somebody in the group doesn't like guns very much. On the way to the little town of Harlow, they're stopped by the local sheriff and police. The police are just letting the kids know that if they have any issues coming through, that they should contact them. The sheriff also tries a weird tactic of asking them to be respectful, and this is where we learn that Melody and Lila's grandmother was actually originally from Harlow, which means nothing. This goes nowhere and
nothing! You lose! Good day, sir!
Doesn't mean anything to the plot except for a quick exchange about some brief foreshadowing regarding sunflowers and doom. As we arrive to the town, we learn that our friends had hired none other than the truck driver with the gun from the gas station. So they begin to explore the town, talking about various things they can do, including putting in an art shop and a comic shop and how it would be lit. While exploring the town, they also see that there is a Confederate flag hanging up, so they have to get rid of that because while entering the abandoned orphanage, well, what they thought was abandoned, it turns out that a crazed old woman still occupies the building. She says that she owns the building still and they cleared up everything with the bank. After telling her to get out and storming off, Dante leaves Mel by herself, and this is where we have a dialogue between Virginia, the old lady still occupying the building, and Melody herself. This is when a large figure looms over them in the background, and I can only assume that this is Bubba Sawyer. But Virginia quickly tells him to go back to his room, and then, after this, Dante and company have Virginia removed where she begins to die out of shock out of being kicked out of her own home. Big Bubba Sawyer and Dante's fiancée Ruth go with the sheriff to go get Virginia to the hospital as quickly as they can. They're rushing off to the hospital. We begin to meet more chainsaw fodder while they get ready for the night's events. Virginia dies in Bubba's arms and gives him a final request to have to stay out of her room. I believe this is because she's tired of finding him stretching out all of her clothes and wearing her makeup. In this scene, Bubba tries desperately to bring her back to life, putting her oxygen mask to her face and messing with the oxygen tank. Then, at 18 minutes into the film, we get our first kill. The sheriff in the back grabs Bubba's arm and tries to tell him that it's too late. Bubba responds in kind by breaking the man's arm and then stabbing him with his arm bone in the neck. The sheriff tries to shoot Bubba, but the shot's redirected into the neck of the sheriff that was driving the car. They then drive through a sunflower field and crash right into a harvester, leaving Ruth stuck and helpless, with the other two sheriffs now dead, presumably. While all this is happening, Lila gets tired of waiting around and hearing all the auctions go off, so she begins to explore the town on her own. This is where she goes to talk to Richter and possibly antagonize him. And this is where we learn that Lila was a survivor of a school shooting, which is why they don't like guns. But she also has an interest in guns because she talks to Richter about guns and wants to mess with guns. I'm not really sure. But after finding out that she was a survivor, Richter shows sympathy for her, and it's kind of a touching moment as she vents to this person that she doesn't even know, and he lets her talk and vent about what's on her mind and get a lot off her chest. Mel and Dante soon finish auctioning off the buildings, and afterward they find out that Virginia has died, to which Dante just says, "Damn."
Damn!
Mel feels guilty about the death of Virginia, saying it doesn't feel right being here anymore, and she wants to get Lila and go back home. We flash back to Ruth being trapped and see Leatherface is getting down to work, and we see him removing Virginia's face. During this time, Ruth tries to radio for help. It seems that her cries are falling on deaf ears, except for the last bit that is heard by the gas station clerk. Ruth tries to sneak out and gets yoinked by Leatherface and stabbed and strangled. Leatherface also seems to really enjoy Ruth's hair before making his way back towards home. We go back to the party, and this is where Richter takes the bus keys and the car keys, saying the 4 protags murdered the sweet old lady, and unless they show him the deed, they aren't getting the keys back and they aren't going anywhere. Dante fails to find the deed in his documentations, so they Scooby-Doo their way back into the orphanage looking for the deed. The gas station clerk calls a very busy Sally who is getting a pig, and after she learns that Leatherface might be back, she gears up and heads out ready to enact her justice. Sally looks at a picture of her slaughtered friends and heads out. I wonder, was that the same picture that the hitchhiker took of them? No, it couldn't be. He blew that up when he was cursing Franklin.
Holy hell, Danhausen! What? Danhausen!
Dante and Melody split up in order to look for the deed in the old orphanage, and Melody finds the deed and realizes they did kick the old lady out of her own home. There are some rumblings that catch Dante and Melody's attention. Dante is then attacked by Leatherface. I particularly really like this shot as the door swings open and closed, giving us a nice visual as Dante stumbles around getting attacked by Leatherface before he finally bursts through the door and falls to the ground. Melody sees Bubba looming over the body of Dante and runs to hide. While hiding in the closet, Leatherface rummages through looking at different articles of Virginia's clothing. Bubba, what'd we talk about? Here we see Leatherface begin to cry and hold the clothing, which this scene really reminded me a lot of the first film, where he's sitting down after his first kills and the window and he's trying to figure out where all these kids are coming from. Leatherface starts dolling himself up with Virginia's makeup before he sees the party outside. He gets filled with rage and starts throwing a temper tantrum and catches some bad luck when busting a mirror. A storm brews and all the chainsaw fodder is hurried onto the bus while Melody contemplates yelling out of the window to warn them. Leatherface busts a hole in the wall to reveal his trusty chainsaw, which is a bit confusing as I'm wondering why it's there, why is it walled up? Did Leatherface go on a rampage before, killing other orphans? Does Virginia know about his past, that's why she took his chainsaw away? Who knows, who cares, it doesn't matter. Dante begins to rise from the ground and stumbles out into the rainy streets.
Rise from your grave.
And he's seen by Richter, goes to confront him before he realizes that Dante is dying. Dante is dead. Dante is gone. The bank lady that helped organize the auction is there, and Richter tells her to go call the cops instead of just giving her the keys. Richter, on his hero complex, cocks his gun and goes to investigate. Leatherface works on getting his chainsaw started when he hears Richter making his way into the building and up the stairs, in which Leatherface goes to hide. This is where Melody actually gets some points from me, because she turns out to be kind of a smart character. She uses her foot to tilt the full body mirror that was in the room in order to show Richter that Leatherface was lurking in the shadows. However, it doesn't mean much as Leatherface charges through and breaks Richter's leg. They struggle and Leatherface is smashed into a window. He uses a shard of glass from the window to impale Richter in the neck. As he falls to the ground, he tries to offer the keys to Melody, who has been hiding under the bed, only to get his head cracked open like a good cold one with the boys. Now, I thought it was just going to be a one and done thing, but Bubba begins to just smash the dude's skull into oblivion, bashing it over and over and over, which got an audible pop out of me during my first watch. Unfortunately for Melody, she's caught in the splash zone and silently cries as Leatherface finally makes his way out of the room. We go to Sally, who's investigating the sunflower field that the first attack took place in, where she finds the skinned body of Virginia propped up amongst the sunflowers. Man, that face mask really helped moisturize her skin. Good job, Leatherface! The chainsaw fodder is off partying on the bus, and Lila gets tired of it and wants to go search for Melody, where she finds the corpse of Dante. Melody has retrieved the keys from the corpse of Richter before trying to sneak her way out, climbing over the guardrail, making her way down only to be spotted by Bubba, throwing his hammer at her and sending her crashing through the floor. Now, at this point, I thought she would have a broken sternum, considering that he threw a hammer into her chest heavy enough to send her crashing through the floor. Leatherface revs up his chainsaw as he begins to chase the now underground Melody. The chainsaw makes its way through the floor and cuts the sewage pipe, dumping a thick liquid onto Melody while Lila tries to help her escape. Melody gives the keys to the bus driver as they make their way to the back of the bus as they try to flee the scene. The bus driver stops, however, to investigate the damage done by Leatherface and to properly file his claim. Before he can get ahead of himself, Leatherface beheads him and emerges onto the bus. Everyone pulls out their cameras to film Leatherface and stream him on TikTok. They tell Leatherface if he tries anything, he'll get canceled. Leatherface makes his way through the fodder. As Leatherface makes his way to the back of the bus, Lila begins to have flashbacks to her school shooting survival, before Lila and Melody hide in the back of the bus and the toilets. We get a chainsaw pelvis kill that for whatever reason reminded me of Texas Chainsaw 2, and the banker tries to escape through a window only to be chopped in half. Melody and Lila try to escape through the ventilation window in the bathroom, however Melody gets stuck. Leatherface tries to make his way through the door and
Look what your brother did to that door!
Melody stabs him in the hand with the souvenir chainsaw from the gas station. They both manage to get out and are picked up by Sally, who had just pulled into town. They beg Sally to drive, but I don't think she can hear them over her own monologue. She says they have to stay in the car, while she goes to have a showdown with Bubba. Entering the orphanage, she finds Leatherface sitting in his room, shotgun ready to blow his brains out. She says the names of her friends and demands Leatherface acknowledge her.
Acknowledge me.
But he walks on by. Being forgotten by Leatherface sends her into shock. Leatherface goes to get the new kids, and then Sally suddenly comes out of nowhere, laughing like she did at the end of the first film, ready to kill Leatherface. She gives the keys to the kids and goes hunting, telling them to get out of here. The battle is short-lived as Leatherface impales Sally, lifting her into the air, while our two kids try to run Leatherface over, but just kind of skim against him after he throws the chainsaw at them. Leatherface is now on the move and Melody is trapped in the crashed car, telling Lila to leave her behind for her own safety. Melody then is approached by Leatherface and she begins to apologize for what they did to his mama. Leatherface doesn't say anything to this, instead revving his chainsaw, showing that it's too little too late. Lila emerges with the gun from Richter's earlier and tries to shoot Leatherface. Since she doesn't really know how guns work, she can't shoot it, so she runs off. Leatherface in hot pursuit. Sally, from the trash, shoots Leatherface with a shotgun, giving some inspirational final words before she dies. Looking through an abandoned movie theater for Leatherface shotgun ready, she realizes it's a trap and Bubba tries to drown her. After disarming and rendering her helpless, Lila has another flashback to her times as a school shooting victim. However, Melody is suddenly able to walk again, even though she had something pierced through her leg and possibly a broken sternum. She jumps onto Leatherface's back, delaying the slaughter. However, much like Sally, she's just kind of tossed aside. Leatherface strikes a pose, but is shot a couple times by Lila. Melody comes through with a chainsaw uppercut to Leatherface, who falls into the water, drowning underneath. And Leatherface is now dead. The two embrace in a hug, having survived the massacre, crying as they embrace. Preparing to leave the next morning, Lila finds Sally's picture in her hat and takes both. They get into the car and put on the autopilot to head home. Lila jokes about moving to the town with Melody, and Leatherface happily says, "Come on, just stay now," by yoinking Melody out of the car. Turns out he was still alive. He beheads Melody as the autopilot is still engaged and takes Lila away, much like how Sally was in the back of the car, watching Leatherface do his famous chainsaw dance. There is an after credits scene where Leatherface is seen walking to what I can only presume is the original Sawyer household, and that completes the film. Is this movie perfect? No. It definitely has its flaws. We get a lot of mixed messages about where the film stands on guns and the generational divide and the economical divide. And before anyone says that they need to keep politics out of it, remember that the first film had a lot about the meat industry, as well as a lot of undertones that people still point out to today, about the divide between the wealthy and the poor. Besides any kind of message that the film tries to portray, I believe that one thing that definitely was done well was the cinematography. There are plenty of shots that I absolutely loved, plenty of ideas that I thought were capitalized great, as far as just the scenery and how everything goes. One thing that I do wish the film would have had was possibly another family member or an aspect like that, as Leatherface in the original didn't seem to be driven just to be a killer. More often than not, it seemed like his motivation came through the influence of his family. Maybe Virginia could have said something to Leatherface that may have sparked the massacre differently. The film is not flawless, but it is certainly fun. It's not the worst movie in the franchise either. I still give that Texas Chainsaw 3D. I wish this film would have gotten a theatrical release, but from what I've read, the screening didn't do so well, and because of that, they sold it to Netflix instead. I'm a little disappointed that it's a Netflix original, because I would have loved to get this one on DVD and Blu-ray, but either way, I'm still really glad that I saw this film. I do definitely recommend this film to slasher enthusiasts. Out of a scale of 10, I have to give this movie a 6.5. My favorite kill being the hammer to the skull of Richter. It caught me off guard and was really gruesome, and just something about it really caught me off guard, and it was a really cool kill to me. Let me know what you thought of the film in the comment section. What was your favorite kill? Your least favorite kill? Did you like the film? Did you hate the film? Thank you so much for checking out this review. Subscribe if you would like to.